Welcome to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. Each episode will bring you tips, practical change formats, and new perspectives to make your life and work better right now, drawn from Appreciative Inquiry and related approaches. This episode is brought to you by the Practical Appreciative Inquiry Facilitator Training. Let me show you how to get started using Appreciative Inquiry confidently with teams and small groups. The next live online course starts soon. You can find the details and how to book your place at coachingleaders.co.uk. All right, let's get going. Episode 3, Words Create Worlds. The Constructionist Principle and what it means in practice. In this episode, we start looking at the basic principles of Appreciative Inquiry, starting with the Constructionist Principle. This won't be just a theoretical discussion, we'll be looking at practical implications for your life and work too, including why we think we're experiencing objective reality, but actually we're not. What cryptocurrency and financial crashes tell us about the social construction of reality, and how the Constructionist Principle means that change can happen much faster than we expect. Words create worlds. How our reality is shaped by the conversations we have. We think we're experiencing objective reality, but we're not. I'm not talking here about the neurology of perception and how individual brains construct their internal representations of the world, the way that the evidence of our own eyes can mislead us that you will have seen exposed by any number of optical illusions. Rather, let's focus on the way that our social reality is constructed. We operate not just in a physical environment, but we're also navigating our way through a sea of beliefs, categorizations, concepts, viewpoints, and expectations about how the world works, all of which are created and maintained by the conversations we have with other people. The language we use and the conversations we have shape our social reality. We make sense of things through conversation, and what emerges as knowledge is a broad social agreement created among people through communication. In Appreciative Inquiry, this is known as the Constructionist Principle. It recognizes that there are many different ways of viewing social reality and many truths, rather than just one truth that claims to be absolute. Note that I'm talking about social facts rather than facts like the world is round. It's possible that there might be people taking an extreme social constructionist position that even physical facts are influenced by conversation, but we don't have to go that far to see the usefulness of the principle. What does this mean in practice? Life is full of social constructs, concepts and categories which exist because people agree to act as if they exist. What Bitcoin and financial crashes tell us about social construction? Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are a good example of social construction. In 2011, you could get one Bitcoin for 30 cents. In December 2017, it hit $19,783.06. Why was it worth 30 cents in 2011 and nearly $20,000 in 2017? Because that's what people decided it was worth at those times. Actually, that's true for all currencies, not just Bitcoin. They're worth whatever people decide they're worth. If you've ever visited Scotland, then gone to England and tried to spend a Scottish pound note in an English shop, you'll probably have found the shopkeeper won't accept it, even though technically it's legal currency in the UK. Social status would be another example. The elevated status accorded to the British royal family exists because enough people agree that it exists. When people decide to change their beliefs around a particular social construct, reality changes. Just before the 2008 financial crash, the balance sheets of banks were bolstered by valuable assets called credit default swaps, which Wikipedia informs me are a type of financial swap agreement where the seller of the credit default swap insures the buyer against a default on some reference asset. Then one day the market decided that these credit default swaps were worthless, so the banks suddenly had net deficits and started calling for bailouts. How did the credit default swap go from valuable to being worth nothing so quickly? Because the markets, made up of people with some trading algorithms thrown in, decided that's what it was worth. When people decide to change their beliefs around a particular social construct, reality changes. Organizations, societies, and markets are made up of social constructs, conventions, rules, and assumptions that usually go unchallenged and unreflected on. Although these social constructs don't have a physical reality like buildings, computers, or people, they do make up the social reality that the people in that system have to operate in. People make decisions on the basis of those social constructs, as reasons to do things or constraints on what they can do. People interpret information and shape their expectations of the future within the frame of those unchallenged assumptions. But there are many other possible interpretations of any belief system or way of looking at things. Social constructionism doesn't judge belief systems and social constructs on how true they are. In fact, it doesn't have anything to say about ultimate truth. Instead, it looks at how useful they are. As Professor David Cooperrider says, the constructionist principle means that we can replace absolutist claims or the final word with the never-ending collaborative quest to understand and construct better options for living. So what are the implications? If social reality is shaped by the conversations we have, it makes sense to talk about what is working, what we're proud of, what gives life to the organizations we work in and the societies we live in, and what we want. This will help us to notice possibilities and find solutions that we would never have even seen if we stuck with talking about gaps, deficiencies, problems to be solved, and what we want to get away from. When we change the conversation, reality changes. This means that change can happen quickly. Incidentally, it also suggests that there's some truth to that old motivational speaker trope that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Let me end with a question. What changes could you make to what you talk about or the way you talk about it to get the best from your team, your colleagues, or your boss? What specific changes will you try out in the questions you ask, the stories you tell? In the next episode, we'll continue our look at the basic principles of appreciative inquiry with the anticipatory principle, how our positive images of the future can guide our actions in the present day. Thanks for listening to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. You can find the show notes at positivechangemethods.com. Please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you like this episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can review it. See you next time.